Hello and welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today. This is the informational webinar for the STEM Talent Challenge, which is powered by the U.S. Economic Development Administration. This webinar is designed to provide a high-level overview. For more complete information, please see the posted Notice of Funding Opportunity. This Notice of Funding Opportunity can be found at eda.gov/OIE/STEM. Today, we will be covering a variety of topics to provide more information about the STEM Talent Challenge and how to apply. We will begin with a quick welcome where we will introduce you to the team, and then we will tell you about the mission of our office, the Office of Innovation and Entrepreneurship, or OIE. We will talk about the origins and design of the STEM Talent Challenge and review the basics of planning and implementation activities. We'll go over the desired outputs and outcomes, which we hope will help you focus your projects. Finally, we will talk about what should go in your application from a technical standpoint. We will conclude by reviewing some frequently asked questions that we hope will help you in the application process. I'd like to take a moment to again welcome everyone to this webinar and to introduce myself. I am Carmen Myers-Reed, and I am the Program Manager for the STEM Talent Challenge. I will be overseeing this challenge and will be your primary point of contact for all things related to it. I am very new to OIE and to the government. Until a little over a month ago, I worked as a Program and Compliance Manager for a nonprofit that specialized in workforce development. Because my background is in workforce training, I'm really excited to see what kind of innovative projects get submitted. Now, I'd like to introduce you to my colleague, Emily Miller, who will be telling you a bit about herself, the background of OIE, and the origins of the STEM Talent Challenge.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in to our STEM Talent Challenge webinar. My name is Emily Miller, and I'm the Deputy Director of the Office of Innovation and Entrepreneurship. I've been here with EDA, the U.S. Economic Development Administration, for about 2 years now. I did come from a startup world before that, so I like to call myself a recovering entrepreneur. So I'm very excited to be here today, contributing to this webinar. Talent is something near and dear to my heart as an entrepreneur, and I know it is a very important topic for entrepreneurship broadly. So really excited to speak more with you today about this challenge and the great opportunity for our inaugural STEM Talent Challenge, the first of its kind for 2020. So we wanted to start today by talking a little bit about our office, the Office of Innovation and Entrepreneurship. We love our acronyms in government, so we are affectionately known as OIE. This is a little bit more about who we are. We are housed within the U.S. Economic Development Administration, EDA. That is a bureau in the U.S. Department of Commerce. Our office was established by the America Competes Act of 2010. So fairly new office, but have a lot of great programs that we will talk to you about today and how those dovetail with the STEM Talent Challenge. Our mission is to empower communities so that entrepreneurs can launch companies, scale technologies, and create the jobs of tomorrow. So let's start. Before we get too far in this presentation, I want to talk quickly about what it is we mean by technology-based economic development, which is really what we specialize in here at OIE. I'm assuming most of you have heard of Maslow's hierarchy of needs for individuals. That culminates with self-actualization. But the parallel example is also relevant for communities. Communities also have a hierarchy of needs when we think about it through the lens of economic development. Self-actualization in this case is a healthy ecosystem, achieving a community's full potential, including innovative activities. As you can see here in this pyramid, at the base, we have traditional economic development, what we tend to call economic development 1.0. Important things like infrastructure and technology to enable a community, to connect it. Basic infrastructure includes things like roads, ports, wastewater treatment, and utilities. These are all the kind of foundational elements that a community needs to set it apart. Above that, we have technology. These are things like broadband, cellular, and wireless connectivity that helps us foster digital economies. This is even more important in the remote environment, as we all know. And once you have these foundational assets kind of moving up this pyramid, communities are able to build innovation economies, focusing on things like business support. So that could be an accelerator, an incubator, all the organizations that support business formation and really create a healthy ecosystem for startups to thrive. And at the very top, right underneath the healthy ecosystem, are innovation engines, things like universities, federal labs, science and research parks, all the things that have tech transfer programs and intellectual property, and the ability to commercialize technology and innovation and get it into the marketplace. So at the top of the pyramid is really where tech-based economic development takes place. It's the realm where programs like Build to Scale and STEM thrive. We're really trying to foster these entrepreneurial ecosystems in regional economies to increase resilience, global competitiveness, and improve quality of life. And of course, between all the layers of this pyramid, the people and culture are really the glue and what hold it together. So let's talk a little bit about our flagship program, Build to Scale, because it has a lot of relevance for the STEM Talent Challenge. We are going on our 7th year of the Build to Scale program. We have a very diverse cohort and portfolio of grants that we've made for Build to Scale. The goal with Build to Scale is to develop and support regional innovation initiatives that help us build regional economies. And we do that by supporting scalable technology-driven startups. Build to Scale, we're really building on the momentum of 7 years working in this space. And one thing we've realized, it's become clear that these growing regional innovation economies are experiencing an increased demand for workers with science, technology, engineering, and math skills. So just wanted to give a quick highlight of the types of impacts that we've made with Build to Scale. We've done over 220 grants, totaling $100 million in federal funds. And a really exciting component of that is that we've leveraged 120 million in community match. And as you can tell from our impacts at the bottom, we've worked with over 6,000 startups, $1.6 billion of additional capital raised by these startups, and a lot of new products were launched and high quality jobs were created. So the STEM Talent Challenge is definitely kind of building on this momentum from our Build to Scale portfolio. We're really excited to talk to you a little bit more about the goals of STEM today. All right, so the origin and design of the program. I always tell people, let's start with the end in mind. Let's understand the why behind the program. High-skilled human capital is proving essential to the growth and expansion of these regional technological ecosystems. But the problem is US employers are struggling to fill jobs in these fields. And younger or leaner firms, like many innovative startups, are especially hard hit by this challenge. An increasing number of jobs that require STEM skills don't require a bachelor's degree, and other education and training pathways, such as apprenticeships, fellowships, and other work-based learning models are becoming instrumental in meeting the urgent demand for a STEM-capable workforce. Two of EDA's long-standing investment priorities, workforce development and economic resilience, strongly align with the need to increase STEM talent development efforts across the nation. As Carmen already mentioned, today's objectives are not designed to make you professionals or experts in every single detail of the program itself, but rather we want to give you the tools and the resources to understand Congress's intent in this program, how we interpret the statute, and most importantly, understanding the best strategies to applying to the program. So just as fair warning, this is a high level and strategic overview. And please keep in mind that the Notice of Funding Opportunity, or the NOFO, is really the North Star to refer back to, and you will find that on the STEM Talent Challenge website. I like to highlight this slide because with our work running the Build to Scale program now for 7 years, we've spent a lot of emphasis on two components of this pyramid, the capital and entrepreneurship. So through Build to Scale, we've been supporting the capital challenge. So really to inject more capital into these communities for startups and for the entrepreneurial ecosystems. And we've been making a lot of grants for our venture challenge, really supporting those ESOs, incubators, accelerators, universities, all the really innovative organizations and programs that are supporting our entrepreneurs. But a really critical component of a healthy ecosystem, as we know, is talent, particularly STEM talent, which is where the STEM Talent Challenge comes in. So we're really excited to announce this is our inaugural STEM Talent Challenge. And the goal here is to build STEM talent to strengthen regional innovation economies. Big emphasis that you will see us place throughout this webinar on supporting high growth entrepreneurial ventures, industries of the future, and other innovation-driven businesses. The bottom line is we cannot talk about economic development without also talking about talent, particularly STEM talent. You'll notice here we have our due date. It is rapidly approaching. Applications are due by October 14th, 2020 at 11:59 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And you can find out more details on the process for submitting your application in the Notice of Funding Opportunity as well. The key point I want to hit home here is that just like Build to Scale, we have a laser focus on regional economies. It's really important. We talk a lot about every region is unique. Every region has its own strengths and assets. So we really think that, to make a compelling application for the STEM Talent Challenge, you really need to understand how your talent development strategy is aligned with and complements your region's innovation economy. It could look many different ways, depending on the region that you're in. It could be aligning with advanced manufacturing in the Midwest. It could be advanced timber products in the Northwest or the Northeast. It could look many different ways, but one critical point of this, and that you'll hear us reiterate throughout the presentation, is really aligning with your region's innovation economy. So please keep that in mind. One other kind of policy detail that we want to highlight is that the STEM Talent Challenge program is authorized by Section 28 of the Stephenson-Wilder Technology Act. Build to Scale is also authorized by the Stephenson-Wilder Technology Act in Section 27. It is a pretty short, only about a page long statute, but I think it's important to understand exactly what Congress asked us to do with this program. And these are kind of the three main pillars of that statute to kind of understand some of the origins and design. The first is assess and identify. We will talk about that in future, a little bit later in the webinar, but these are really getting to the planning and development. So you are able to conduct a needs assessment and identify the need for skilled STEM workers in your regional economy. That is definitely an optional part of the application process that you can take part of. Implement programs. This is really where the rubber meets the road. We would like to see heavy emphasis on program implementation to really build out these STEM talent strategies in your regional economy. And then develop infrastructure. We really want to see these strategies scale and expand. So really get these STEM work and learn models expanded once you've started your program implementation.
Thanks,
and now, I'll turn it back over to you, Carmen, for the eligibility and funding.
Perfect. Okay, let's talk about the logistics of the STEM Talent Challenge. We'll start by going over what type of entity is eligible for this challenge and how much funding is available. For those who are familiar with our Build to Scale program, you may notice that the eligibility is very similar. You can apply if you are a state, an Indian tribe, a city or other political subdivision of a state, such as a county. You can also apply if you are a nonprofit organization, an institution of higher education, a public-private partnership, a science or research park, a federal laboratory, or an economic development organization. If you apply as one of these entities, you must also show support by your state or political subdivision. You may also apply if you are a consortium of any of the previously mentioned entities. Please note that individuals were not listed as eligible entities and are not eligible to receive this funding. The STEM Talent Challenge is designed to provide support at the system level. We are providing funding to support the running of the programs themselves. This means that we are funding the actual training provider, not the companies that are utilizing the talent or the students and workers who are being trained. Again, because we cannot fund individuals, this funding is meant to provide operating support, not direct payments to students in the form of stipends or wages. The STEM Talent Challenge is designed to help communities with two activities: planning and development and program implementation. Now it is time to talk about the specifics of funding for this challenge. In total, $2 million has been appropriated for this program. Applicants may request up to $300,000 for the total project period of 18 to 24 months. Of this $300,000, up to $50,000 can be used for planning activities, which should be conducted within the first 6 months of the project. These planning activities are completely optional, and this funding is meant to help organizations prepare to implement their projects. The remainder of the requested funding should be used for project implementation. Again, no more than $50,000 can be used for planning, and implementation is the goal of the program. Requests for funding for planning activities only will be rejected. The planning portion is merely a tool to get to program implementation. So again, program implementation is a required activity. Planning-only projects will not be considered. Let's discuss now the specifics of planning and implementation and some sample activities under each of these categories. We will start with the basics of planning and development to prepare you should you choose to include a planning component with your program. Just to rewind a bit, you may remember that our statutory authority, Section 28 of the Stevenson-Wilder Technology Act, gave the authorization to assess and identify the needs of the community. It is our goal through this challenge to fund projects that are closely aligned with the strengths and talent needs of their respective region's innovation economy. On this end, we have come up with some suggested planning activities that will help communities set up a project that is truly in tune with these strengths and needs. First, applicants can use planning funding to conduct a rigorous needs analysis if one does not exist. This needs analysis should clearly articulate the labor market challenges faced by the regional economy. As a result of this analysis, proposed projects should be tied to a regional economy's unique strengths, assets, and shared infrastructure. Additionally, planning funding can be used to develop or further develop an implementation strategy that will address the unmet needs and existing barriers for regional STEM-capable workforces through work and learn models. Again, planning is completely optional. It is an allowable activity and should be used if no plans or assessments currently exist, but it is not required. Since program implementation should be the focus of your project, we have provided some suggestions for how this could look. Your project may implement or expand an existing STEM competency-based work and learn model. This definition is very broad, but the training could result in recognized credentials. Projects should focus on providing training that prioritizes STEM skills tied to emerging sectors and the needs of future industries. Emily, do you want to give a couple of examples of what those future industries might look like?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to paint a little bit more of a picture about what we're talking about here when we talk about industries of the future. We're typically talking about emerging and transformative sectors. That could include anything in the following realm: artificial intelligence, machine learning, advanced manufacturing and robotics. It could include space exploration and commerce, bioscience, quantum information science, and aqua and agricultural technologies. These are just a few examples of what we mean when we say kind of emerging transformative sectors and industries of the future, but I know that there are certainly more, so it's not an all-encompassing list. But that's a pretty good example of what we're talking about when we say, a very future-focused sector.
Great, thank you. We want to reiterate that experimentation is encouraged. While we do hope that training will include a hybrid of on-the-job training at an employer and classroom training, either in person, online, or a blend, we leave the specifics up to you. Finally, we want projects to develop partners in innovation. That is, applicants should work closely with local and regional innovation leaders to implement projects that are aligned with their needs.
And Carmen, if I could just add really quickly, I really want to hit home that point, those last 2 points really, that There are many training and workforce development programs out there. Department of Labor runs fantastic ones, Department of Education as well. But we are really trying to pioneer new work and learn models. And so, experimentation is definitely encouraged. We are not bound by any of the necessarily industry definitions like IRAPs or things like that. So we certainly encourage models that are iterative and innovative to definitely apply. And when we talk about partners in innovation, I think that this is something we certainly hit home quite a bit in our Build to Scale program, but we also want to iterate it here for the STEM Talent Challenge. I think thoughtful collaboration and partnership in your regional economy is critical to a successful project. So that's something that will definitely be very important if you want to be competitive for this. We don't want to see STEM talent development strategies that are kind of operating in a silo, that are kind of disconnected from the broader regional ecosystem. So I just want to hit that home that these partners in innovation and the real emphasis on experimentation is very important and a big differentiator for this program.
Thanks so much, Emily, for elaborating on that. It was really helpful. Next, we will talk about the desired outputs and outcomes for this funding. These areas of focus should provide you with guidance as to what we hope to see as results for projects funded in this challenge. Proposed projects may aim for some or even all of the following outputs. Strong proposals will identify both the short and long-term goals of the proposed projects. These goals will ideally align with the goals listed in the notice of the funding opportunity and on the next 4 slides. While we do not want to be prescriptive, we hope that this information will provide some guidance on the types of projects we would like to see. We are hoping to see projects that develop talent through STEM work-based learning and training. The goal of these projects should be to provide workers with the experiences that they need to succeed on the job. Projects should utilize training models that incorporate work-based learning to provide hands-on experience. These models may include innovative industry-driven apprenticeships, fellowships, internships, and other cooperative employer-educator partnerships, but are not limited to existing industry definitions. I will reiterate, experimentation and innovation are strongly encouraged. We would also like to see projects that increase the innovation capacity of the project's region. On this end, projects should focus on connecting regional innovation stakeholders and employers with the workforce and talent development leaders and training providers. Projects should truly be driven by the talent needs of those employers at the forefront of innovation. As we discussed on an earlier slide, we see talent development as a key factor to driving innovation. Without qualified talent, innovation is stalled. We are looking to fund organizations who are driving regional innovation through worker training. Successful projects may also focus on increasing diversity, equity, and inclusion in STEM. We are looking for projects that focus on providing equitable access to the innovation economy for all members of the community. We would like to see relationships, either new or existing, that will connect those who are traditionally underserved or underrepresented with those driving innovation in the region. Finally, projects should focus on building computational expertise for the digital economy. Though this challenge is not funded by the CARES Act, the effects of COVID-19 have sped up the need to produce a talent pool with computational literacy and the ability to work in the virtual and remote world. Projects may focus on fulfilling this need. Now we will go over the timeline for the application and selection process, as well as the required content and format of your application. As you may know, the Notice of Funding Opportunity was released on August 27th, 2020. The application window will be open for 48 calendar days, including 2 holidays. The application window will close on October 14th, 2020. This means that the full application is due by 11:59 a.m. or p.m. Eastern Standard Time on October 14th, 2020. Applications submitted after this time will be automatically rejected. Applications will then be reviewed and scored by multiple reviewers. Following this review period, successful applicants should expect to receive award notification 90 to 120 days from the due date. This puts the award notification in the winter of 2021. Applications will be evaluated and scored by multiple reviewers using standardized review criteria, which we will talk about in a few minutes. A 10-page project narrative and a 4-page budget narrative are required. Additionally, the full application includes a series of standard required forms and additional supporting documents such as letters of support and commitment. Though we will talk a bit about these items in detail, please see the Notice of Funding Opportunity for more information. This can be found on our website at eda.gov/OIE/STEM. In terms of technical formatting, the narrative must be no more than 10 single-sided 8.5 by 11-inch pages with a minimum 12-point font and 1-inch margins. Applications that do not follow these basic formatting rules will be automatically disqualified. You will see here a quick explanation of suggested parts of the project narrative. There is more detail related to each of these suggested sections in the Notice of Funding Opportunity. You will start with an executive summary, which should include the name of the project and the applicant, the type of applicant, and a project summary of 250 words or less. Next, you will include a description of the location and region, which details the primary service area and the regions served. Keep in mind that we are looking for you to show that your project fits the strengths and needs of the region. You will also include a description of the proposed project, which should include a clear statement of purpose, key personnel that will be involved, proposed or existing partners, and a plan for outreach and engagement. Your scope of work, which is the next component, should include key milestones and deliverables. This should be tied in with the next part, your project timeline, which should include proposed start date, projected dates when you hope to achieve key milestones, and an estimated date of project completion. If you are utilizing planning funding, you will also want to outline the portion of your project that will be designated for planning. This will usually be within the first 6 months of your project. Next, you will include your anticipated impacts, that is, the outputs and outcomes, metrics, and tracking mechanisms. These should align with some or all of the desired outputs outlined in the previous portion of this webinar. Finally, you will include a sustainability plan, detailing how you will keep this project going in the future once the award period has ended. In addition to the project narrative, you will be required to submit a series of forms and some additional documentation. This is broken down in detail on the Notice of Funding Opportunity and is outlined on this slide. In addition to the project narrative, you will include a budget narrative and a staffing plan. You will also need commitment letters for every piece of your matching share, which we will talk about further in a bit. As we briefly mentioned before, you will also need to include a letter of government support if you are applying as one of the non-public entities that are eligible to apply. This letter should clearly articulate that your project will fulfill unmet needs of the region and its innovation economy. You will also need to include a series of standard forms that you will find in the application package on grants.gov. These forms include the SF-424, the application for federal assistance, the SF-424A, the budget information form, and the SF-424B, the assurances for non-construction programs. You will also include the CD-511 and the SFLLL, which both relate to lobbying activities. Finally, you will include documentation showing that your project was submitted to the single point of contact for your state, if it has one, applicable organization documents, and documentation of your negotiated indirect cost rate, if you have one. For more information about the specifics of these documents, please see the NOFO. We will be using 6 equally weighted criteria to review and score your application. We will be looking at project support and connectivity, that is, an organization's connection to the region's innovation economy. Is the organization connected to the STEM industry leaders of the region? Does the project have the support of the industry leaders? We will also be looking at engagement and diversity, and it is directly related to the desired output of promoting diversity, equity, and inclusion in STEM fields. Will this project solicit participation from a diverse group of external stakeholders? Do these stakeholders represent a diversity of socioeconomic and geographic connections? We will also look at the project's economic and innovation impacts, whether a project will result in changes to the region's innovation economy. Does this project involve or encourage experimentation with current talent development models? Does the project support industries of the future? We will look at the assets and infrastructure of the project's region. Does this project's regional innovation economy have the infrastructure to support this project? Does it have the assets to support this project? We will also review for project sustainability and adaptability to ensure the lasting future impacts of the projects we fund. Will this project be sustainable once grant funding runs out? Can this project be adapted as necessary to gain future financial or programmatic support? Finally, we will look at project feasibility, i.e., do we feel like this project will actually happen? Does this application show that the project will be executed successfully? Is the budget realistic? Will the project be able to be executed in accordance with the budget narrative? As with Build to Scale, a one-to-one funding match is required. Applicants must demonstrate at the time of application a matching non-federal share of at least 50% of the total project costs. This match can be made up of cash or in-kind contributions. However, all in-kind contributions must be directly related to the overall project cost and its outcomes. At the time that the application is submitted, matching shares of any type must meet the following 3 thresholds. They must be committed to the project for the full period of performance, be available as needed, and not be conditioned or encumbered in any way that may preclude their use consistent with the requirements of EDA investment assistance. Applications should include signed commitment letters for all matching funds from all sources, i.e. applicant, co-applicants, or any third-party organizations. These commitment letters should clearly state that the matching funds meet all 3 of the previously mentioned thresholds. You will have to submit your overall budget, which you will use to complete the 424 and 424A forms, and a budget narrative. Budgets and budget narratives should be thought of holistically. That is, you should think of each item as it relates to your total budget, not just the match or the federal share. For example, if you are applying for $300,000 in STEM funds, you would be running at least a $600,000 initiative and budget. The budget should flow seamlessly with your application, and the costs in your budget should be easily traceable to program activities. To assist you in formulating your budget, we've included a budget template on the STEM Talent Challenge website. Innovation and entrepreneurship rely on STEM-capable talent to advance. This challenge seeks to develop that talent, but leaves the how up to you. Again, experimentation is encouraged. Now, we wanted to go over some frequently asked questions that we hope will assist you in this process. The most common question that we have been asked so far is this one. Am I allowed to apply for funds for planning activities only? The answer to this question is no, as I hope we've made clear throughout this webinar. Program implementation is required. Planning is optional. Applications for planning activities only will be deemed ineligible. Additionally, no more than $50,000 of this funding can be used for planning and development. Emily, would you like to take the next question?
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Can existing programs apply for this funding, or is it for new projects only? As we stated, and very similar to Build to Scale, we work across the full continuum from brand new programs all the way to programs that might be established but are scaling or are attempting something new. So you may implement new or expand an existing STEM competency-based work and learn model, but we just want to reiterate that the activities and outcomes need to very closely align with the goals of the STEM Talent Challenge. So iterative, innovative, and unproven models are highly, highly encouraged to apply.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Emily. Another question we've heard is this one. Should projects follow the standards of current industry recognized apprenticeships? Again, the answer to this question is no. Traditional apprenticeship standards can be followed by projects applying for this challenge, but that is not a requirement. This challenge does not have strict rules governing work and learn models, allowing applicants to be creative in their approach. As we have said throughout this presentation, innovation and experimentation are highly encouraged.
All right, I'll take this one. We've gotten a lot of questions about what types of projects we're looking for. So we wanted to talk through a few examples that are top of mind. These are not prescriptive. These are just illustrative examples, so it doesn't encompass all that's possible out there, clearly. But just wanted to talk through 3 or 4 example projects just to get the wheels turning about kind of what this STEM Talent Challenge is really all about. The first example we've got is about an EDO, an economic development organization. So let's say an economic development organization identifies a gap in their regional talent pool for UAV manufacturing talent, so unmanned aerial vehicle manufacturing talent. That could be maybe a community in North or South Dakota, a place like Nebraska with big wide open skies where UAV testing is really becoming a hotbed of activity. But let's say they've identified a gap in the regional talent pool for this, and they create a plan to launch a new partnership with the local workforce development organization and leading UAV companies. They could be established companies or startups. And they decide to execute an inaugural year-long first-to-flight UAV manufacturing apprenticeship, really designed to pull in students and community members who are interested in entering a STEM career for the first time. You'll notice that, if I could break apart that first example, you've got a really innovative work and learn model. You're partnering with both companies on the ground and a workforce development organization. There's clear regional integration here. They're being thoughtful about the needs of that region and that community with their emphasis on the UAV technology and sector. And there's clear industries of the future and startup impact here, right? You're both helping boost STEM talent for the startup community, and you're also really basing this STEM talent plan in an industry of the future. Another example, second up, could be a life science incubator. They develop and launch, say, a 6-month lab apprenticeship for local STEM undergraduate and graduate students, giving the apprentices an opportunity to apply their STEM education skills in a live laboratory environment alongside fast-growing biotech and life science startups. And the goal here is really placing these students into roles for their careers within these startups upon graduation. Another example could be a rural community college partnering with a leading software development education company to really create a new curriculum for community members to learn software development skills, and then apply those skills through immersive internships with local software companies, growing at the local co-working space. This is another, particularly interesting example given COVID-19 and the impacts of the pandemic, is that, there's a really unique opportunity here for geographically isolated startups to really train and hire locally. We can really work from anywhere now. And so learning these kind of software development skills in a rural community could be a great way to plug people into startup careers, even if they're in a rural community. And then the last example, just to kind of illustrate, is 3 robotic startups. Let's say they're struggling to find qualified hires in their region where they're located. Maybe they partner with a workforce development team to design an innovative work and learn training model for community members recently laid off due to COVID-19's impacts, and then help them build pathways to new career fields for workers from maybe the service, tourism, and entertainment industries. So these are just a few examples of kind of what we're trying to get at from a strategic perspective, what successful applicants might look like, those that are really tying together the regional integration, the work and learn models, as well as an emphasis on the startup ecosystem and industries of the future.
Thanks so much, Emily. We've also been asked if the STEM Talent Challenge is funded by the CARES Act or if it is a response to the coronavirus pandemic. The answer to this question is again, no. The STEM Talent Challenge is not funded by the CARES Act. It is authorized by Section 28 of Stephenson-Wilder, and it is funded through its own appropriation. That being said, as we've discussed earlier, and as Emily just said, the pandemic has accelerated the need for a workforce that is capable of succeeding in this virtual world. And one of the aims of this challenge is to fulfill that need. Emily, would you like to take this last question?
Yes, this is a question that we have gotten from a lot of folks, and it is a great question. Can this funding be used to directly support program participants, such as through apprentice wages or stipends? I think this is a particularly relevant question because I think a lot of folks are familiar with Department of Labor or Department of Education workforce programs, and I think in many cases they do allow for this, but with EDA, this is not allowed. So this program cannot pay for apprentice wages, stipends, scholarships, or any other resources directly to the student or worker. The STEM Talent Challenge funds are really all about the planning, program management, and operation. So that's really the heart of what these funds are going to be used for. And so really, I would just urge folks to consider that, you can request up to $300,000, obviously, and then we require one-to-one match. So think about that $600,000 project holistically. It's really meant to, those funds are meant to drive the planning and the program management and the operations. So hopefully that will help defray costs for the students and workers that participate, but no funds can go directly to the students or workers themselves.
Thanks so much, Emily. We've definitely been getting that question a lot. Okay, so I want to thank you all for taking the time to learn more about the STEM Talent Challenge. We're truly excited about the opportunity of this challenge and of the lasting impacts that it will cause. We look forward to receiving your applications and hope that this webinar has provided more clarity in that process. Should you have any additional questions, please reach out to us via email or visit the website for more resources.